Pleasant good morning to everyone, and welcome once again to another edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Today's guest menu looks like this. In hour number one, Lionel Garrett. If that name rings a bell to most of you in the collegiate basketball world, he was a young man at the time, played for Southern University. And he's going to join me on today's show. This guy was a rebounding machine. Great career at Southern University. That 1978 basketball team, all five players on the starting five, they ended up being drafted for the NBA. And then Lionel Garrett went on to play with the Harlem Globetrotters. And now he's coaching at Wilberforce University and, doing a lot of other things basketball related. He will join me in hour number one. Hour number two, Coach Van Pettaway joins me as usual. Then following Coach Van Pettaway, he's the head football coach at Bethune-Cookman College. Coach Terry Sims will join me in hour number two. And then last but not least, Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network. Here's what's trending on today's show. CIAA suspends fall sports amid growing reality over COVID-19 cases, and they are surging for 2020. SIAC suspends all fall sports and championship events for 2020. So CIAA, SIAC, suspending fall sports. And there is a trickle-down effect. I've had already so many emails about will the MEAC and the SWAC be next? Time will tell. And then the SWAC Football Virtual Media Day, originally scheduled for an earlier time, now will be rescheduled for August 5th through the 7th. And the MEAC announces eSport partnership with Blaze Fire Games. That's what's trending on today's Carlos Brown Show. Guest again, Lionel Garrett. Looking forward to talking to the big man, all 6'9". Let me get into his recruiting process to Southern University. Sometimes you could be in the wrong place, but at the right time. And of course, with Coach Van Pettaway, as always, and for the first time, chatting with Coach Terry Sims, football coach at Bethune-Cookman, and Charles Edmond. Dr. Prince, good morning to you, sir.
Well, good morning, sir. How are you today?
I'm doing fine. And yourself?
I'm doing fine. If you're doing fine, I'm doing fine. How's that?
Well, that's good, but what if I wasn't feeling well? Then you were not going to feel well?
I wouldn't feel as well.
Oh my! I understand. I understand. The SIAC, the CIAA, it had been rumored that that day was coming, that they were going to suspend all fall sports and championships, et cetera, et cetera. So they kind of made it official, and you just can't be surprised at all of that decision, those decisions, and the COVID-19 cases are they're spiking tremendously here, and the Deep South, the Southwest, all over again. So I'm sure you're not surprised by all of this.
No, not at all. As a matter of fact, I commend my hat to those institutions that took the charge, and I was stating that all the time. With us being hit, African Americans, I would expect the HBCUs to be leading the way on this.
Yeah. And the decision that they made, hey, I agree with it. It's all about the safety of the student athletes, the students, support staff, and it's just going to be a tough situation. And then certain people are just not disciplined enough. If you just kind of venture out and you can look and see. Some people will still have their protective, gear on and mask and what have you, and practicing social isolation to a certain extent. And then you see some people just not. I mean, it's just a free fall. It's just like it's no pandemic going on. And so you're going to pay the ultimate price.
Well,
and that is sporting events, lives will be lost. And it's just amazing. I'm watching people still trying to downplay what's going on. We've got to return back to our normal lives. Well, it's still not normal yet, and it's still going to be a while. But anyway.
I was going to say, that's the cost that you pay for living in America. People have a right to exercise their First Amendments and their freedoms. And if they feel like they don't want to wear the mask, okay, then don't wear the mask. Then I'll social distance myself even more. And matter of fact, I'll social distance myself in the attic if I have to. And you cannot make people do what they don't want to do. The old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. And you hate to see the results of people in whether it's stubborn or there was a preacher in Louisiana that was, telling the people, that we're going to trust God. And unfortunately, he lost his life behind that, and was the same preacher that was telling this congregation to send the stimulus checks to the church.
It's hypocrite.
Huh?
He's a hypocrite.
Well,
God gives you senses to be able to determine what's wrong and what's right. And he's not going to force you to do anything. So, you talk about faith, and okay, well, I have faith, and so I can just step out on that faith and don't wear any mask and have people assembling your church when a pandemic is going on. You're crazy as you know what. You go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. I don't care if he's a minister or not. That's foolish. That is foolish. Go ahead. Oh, well, I have faith. I need to cross the street, but I have faith that I'll be able to cross that street and don't wait till the proper time when no cars are coming to step across the street. No, I have faith. I'll just step right in front of that car. Okay. Come on.
Hey, brother. I'm just an observer. I'm following the rules plus the rules, and I'm even adding rules to the rules. You know what I mean? Because and it's not that you're walking and living in fear. As you stated, we have sense, or we would hope that we have sense, and that we would apply that sense along with your faith and along with those who are paid scholars to study these type of things. And it's just like someone that will come to you and say they want to be a radio show host, and you laid out everything for them, and they go against everything you've told them and wonder why they can't get successful. Well, you're not following the instructions. That's why you're failing. And that's a result of kind of where we are right now.
Well,
at least from my vantage point.
Yeah. And again, govern yourselves accordingly. But CIAA, they looked at the facts. They met as a conference, and they decided, hey, it's just not worth it. And this is a decision that we have come to, and we will live with that decision. And,
right.
Everybody that I've talked to, they say, hey, spot on decision. So
Absolutely.
with that being said, 2021, I've made the statement. Let me just say I wish we could fast forward, but at this rate, if we're not, and I say if we're not going to be disciplined enough to do the things that we need to do this time next year, hopefully we're not going through the same thing.
Right. Well, it's a combination of two things, Carlos. We have to control ourselves as responsible humans, and we have to come up with a vaccine. And if we can work those two out, we could minimize this thing. And it's almost like playing chicken. who's going to back down? Well, we know Corona's not going to back down, so I'm not going to play chicken with you. I'm going to let you win, and I'm going to go take cover until we can figure this thing out.
Well, we've got people. I appreciate it. People are weighing in already, and you know what? What I like, it's not about, hey, I like to read messages that agree with me all the time. Nope. Some have disagreed, and then you have to agree to disagree.
Right.
And you can always do it on positive. Here's what Michael said. Phone have a right to use people have a right to use their cell phones, but it's a law to text while driving. It's against the law. Pass a law to put a mask on in public. Well,
he said who ought to put a mask on in public?
Pass a law that says you have to put a mask on in public.
Oh. Well, in public would be everywhere we go outside your residence.
Guess what? I know who does that now.
Right. Yours truly too.
That's me. You know, and again, I don't want to get into you just lay it out what needs to be done. Listen to the experts. A vaccine, hopefully, it will come. I've had some people say, well, I'm even leery about vaccines,
right.
Especially when they just come out, and that's why you have people that volunteer to accept it.
Well, here's the oxymoron. Here's the oxymoron. It's been a custom, and with some legitimate reasoning, that African Americans do not trust the government wholeheartedly. So then you want me to volunteer for a vaccine that's been wiping us out, but I don't know if this is going to work yet, and you need people that look like me to try this vaccine out? I don't know if I would be willing to go and say, sign me up. I don't know.
It'll be interesting to see what happens. They will have some that will do it.
Oh, of course. There are going to be some that will do it, but then there are going to be some that's going to be flat out say, heck, no.
Nope, and some will just take a chance.
Mm-hmm.
But back to CIAA and the SIAC, and when you're looking at football and a contact, collision sport, it's just going to be hard to keep players and coaching staff, because the proximity of being so close, it's going to be hard to keep them safe, 100% safe. And so SIAC and CIAA say, look, we're not willing to take that risk. We'll come back later. And if you look at some of the decisions that are made, even on the high school level, depends on what state you're in. And we had a senator in Louisiana, Senator Cleo Fields, that said he was going to bring forth legislation to say, look, we're not having any fall sports at all. And boy, you should see the backlash now that's coming. People disagreeing. Coaches. Texas, their high school situation. Mississippi. Some people are going to make the decision. They're going to go through this no matter what.
And you know what? They can go through it if that's what they choose.
Mm-hmm.
And, to God be the glory for all of them that choose that route. I am going to err on caution and trust what the medical experts are saying. An
ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Well, I've heard that before.
And an old saying, you don't believe fat meat greasy.
That's interesting. Last week, we had an interesting discussion as far as with Coach Pettaway and talking about basketball and contracts, and some of you weighed in even after the show. And hopefully we can get into a little bit more of that when Coach Pettaway is on the line. But we'll see. And then, of course, the SWAC virtual football media day now rescheduled for August the 5th through the 7th, a 3-day event. And so the question will become, I guess the next 2 or 3 weeks, the next 2 weeks are going to be critical. You're seeing other conferences now saying that they're going to play conference-only schedule. Then that's going to knock out some big money games for some FCS members. But at this point, how can you think otherwise? I mean, if they're gonna play a conference only, the SEC, they're gonna meet this upcoming week to make a decision, I guess, on playing the conference games only. So you kind of see where this thing is going. Conference only. As far as Southern University, they're starting their season much later now. So this is just the effect that we see from this pandemic that has just touched every aspect of life. I mean, just
from A to Z, my friend.
Yeah. And you look and see maybe 20 years from now, 30 years from now, they'll be talking about, do you remember in 2020 and the pandemic? Some of us won't be here, but there will be some that are here, and they'll be able to tell the story.
That's maybe we ought to do one of them time capsule documentaries and bury it in the backyard. And when we meet our earthly journeys in, maybe they can dig it up and capture what we said. What do you think?
That makes me think about a time machine.
Yeah, hey, why not? We used to do that in grade school.
Yeah, well, I'm still trying to get us to fast forward the 2021, but maybe I should say 2022. But in 2021, albeit if things are better, it'll be an exciting time for the conference. You'll be welcoming in FAMU officially. Well, they'll hit being competitive, and Bethune-Cookman. So later on in hour number 2, it's going to be interesting to talk with Coach Sims and just talk to him briefly. He seems to me a man of not a whole lot of words, but he seems to be just strictly business.
Oh yeah, he's about the X's and O's, brother. He's about the X's and O's.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to when all of those coaches are together. Again, we'll say 2021 at SWAT Football Media Day. It's going to be very, 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 very exciting time. Going to take a quick time out. When I come back, it'll be more of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
Serving the community through faith and athletics. The Open Mic Broadcast Network.
Be the one with courage to fight child abuse.
All Texans must find the courage to fight child abuse.
Learn the signs and symptoms and report suspected abuse to appropriate authorities.
Learn and know these warning signs.
A child who undergoes changes in behavior, appetite, or routine.
Watch for unexplained injuries, a change in academic performance, or loss of interest by a child in regular activities.
Trust your instincts. If you suspect something, do something.
If you believe a child is in an abusive situation, please call the Texas Abuse Hotline at 1-800-252-5400.
Be the one with courage. To find your local Children's Advocacy Center, visit onewithcourage.org.
On behalf of children, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The birth of legends are storied in this conference. We must never forget our rich history. We now turn our gaze to the future. The new legends will emerge. New heroes to arise. The Southwestern Athletic Conference. Be our history.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. If you're just tuning in, of course, CIAA and SIAC to postpone fall sports, and 2020 league issue a joint statement that will suspend 2020 fall sports with a possible return in the spring. And if you remember, Coach Banks in all of his glory, he kind of was hinting at the best possible situation, in his opinion, would be everything moves to the spring. In a perfect sense, but
may I ask this question? What would it benefit moving your fall sports to the spring on the FCS level?
From a safety standpoint?
No, I understand the safety part, which is why you would move it. But why not just reload and come back in the fall? Pushing it to the spring, we're not making major money with our fall sports, even if our football is our go-to guy. The guys that are pushing to go to the spring are the ones with the huge TV contracts, and they can't allow that money to escape. We're already understaffed with regular sports. So if you put fall sports to the spring, then that means you're already thin sports support cast, which no one talks about, SIDs and grad assistants. They're going to be pulling their hair out, and stats are going to be so off that they're going to want an 86 the season anyway. So why are we trying to keep up with the Joneses?
I guess that's something you'll have to ask them. I mean, to me, if they want to wait the next fall, that's fine with me.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't bother me one iota. And I understand there's a financial piece, howbeit how much, how little they make. But my concern would be, as always, it's still about the safety
of
the student athletes and the health. So when I get Coach Banks back on, maybe I'll ask him if that was a move that you could support, your reasoning why.
Mm-hmm.
CIAA, SIAC say they're going to look at, possibly in the spring. But we know it's a financial hardship.
Right, it's a financial hardship
at our institution. So, if they want to move it back to the fall, this time next year, you may look and see things may still not be better.
Right.
So then you make an assessment at that point what you'll do for 2021 and beyond.
And it's another thing that I don't think people are really paying attention to. The Power Fives are that much closer to having it the way they want it anyway, to be able to do their own thing. Because the way college athletics are structured, the NCAA's baby is basketball. That's where the money is distributed back to the institutions. The football bowl series is kind of geared toward Power Five exclusively, and they're the ones that get all the money from that. So we know football is under that NCAA sanction, but technically it's not. And so they are going rogue, if you would. And NCAA, from what I'm looking at, they're focusing on trying to get this basketball thing right. Because, see, basketball, everybody gets a little bit of the pie.
Well, of course, the pandemic hit when it did, at a time where they couldn't have the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And so they lost a lot of money.
Right.
We all know that. And they were literally crying about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so if these situations don't improve, there's for the Power Fives and those conferences, they, just to me, they talk about health and the safety of the student athletes, but in the same breath, it's about the Benjamins.
Yes, sir.
Well.
Yes, sir.
And they're making a lot of money. They want to continue to be making a lot of money. if this pandemic continues on at the rate it's going now, yeah, that cash cow is going to be cut, and cut severely.
More like sliced or hacked, huh?
Well,
it's rough.
It'll be interesting to see how all of this. But my concern has always been the health and the safety of the students and the student athletes, and then people in general. People in general. I don't know. What do you think about it out there? Send me a text, or you want to get involved, you can email me at thecarlosbrownshow@gmail.com. I have the Facebook page open, The Carlos Brown Show, that you can send me a text or a comment, and I will discuss it up with you. Well, coming up in about a few minutes, so I'm going to get ready and move on to my first guest, Lionel Garrett. And it's just, to me, a fabulous story of coming to Southern University, playing there. And, I've had a discussion with some of you on social media about some of the days of playing basketball in the conference. Do you remember those times in the 70s and the 80s? And I know you can go to each institution and their alum can talk about some of those great playing days, up-tempo. In Baton Rouge, you got a chance to see the Purvis Shorts, the Machine Gun Kelly from Texas Southern, the Frankie J. Sanders, the Lionel Garrett. And the style of play, of course, different back then as far as now. It was up-tempo. And some of you have told me about how you'd rather see exciting basketball play, and it would supersede whether they were winning. In other words, I had a guy to tell me that, hey, even if they lose, but it's fun and it's entertaining to watch, he could live with that. Isn't that interesting? That is interesting. But during that time, it was up-tempo. It really was. So Lionel Garrett, he'll join me in a few minutes. So to get ready for that and take another time out. And when I come back, we'll visit with Mr. Garrett himself. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
Hello, this is Alonzo Hardy Jr., the president of the SWAC Alumni Association. The SWAC Alumni Association is an organization founded on December 10, 1999, at the Sheraton Hotel in Birmingham, Alabama. Its mission is to serve as a rallying ground for individuals who have made the Southwestern Athletic Conference the illustrious conference that it is today. Its membership is open to former student athletes who played in the conference in any sport, as well as to coaches, athletic administrators, staff members, game officials, and fans. Annually, the association holds a Legends Awards and Roast Banquet or luncheon where it honors individuals with Lifetime Achievement Awards, a Chuck Prophet Wagon Master Award, and occasionally a Distinguished Service Award. Proceeds from that event help to finance degree completion scholarships for student athletes who have exhausted their playing eligibility at SWAC universities, but who may still need an extra semester or two to complete their college studies. For more information on the SWAC Alumni Association or to get information on becoming a member, you can send correspondence to SWAC Alumni Association, 875 Miller Creek Lane, Newport News, Virginia, 23602. The email address is SWACalumniassociation@yahoo.com.
Come on, hustle, 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 hustle. Get your head in the game. Come on.
Are you setting the right example for your kids?
You need to get some confidence.
Before your child's next game, ask yourself, how would you like it if they copied your behavior?
Ad revenue has declined 15%.
Come on, you need to get some confidence.
Positive Coaching Alliance has valuable tips and tools to help our kids perform their best while keeping sports enjoyable for everyone. Positive Coaching Alliance, creating better athletes, better people.
Hello, this is Alonzo Hardy Jr.
Looking to expand your business or services? Let the Open Mic Broadcast Network help lead the way. With our customized campaigns, we are definitely able to reach your target audience. For more information, dial 832-213-8824. The Open Mic Broadcast Network, serving the community through faith and athletics. The voice of student athletics.
Be the one with courage to fight child abuse.
All Texans must find the courage to fight child abuse.
Learn the signs and symptoms and report suspected abuse to appropriate authorities.
Learn and know these warning signs.
A child who undergoes changes in behavior, appetite, or routine.
Watch for unexplained injuries, a change in academic performance, or loss of interest by a child in regular activities.
Trust your instincts. If you suspect something, do something.
If you believe a child is in an abusive situation, please call the Texas Abuse Hotline at 1-800-252-5400.
Be the one with courage. To find your local Children's Advocacy Center, visit onewithcourage.org.
On behalf of children, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. It is indeed a pleasure now to visit with my first guest, Lionel Garrett, former Southern University great, and I'm using the term great, and later to go on to do some great things in life. Lionel, good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning. Thanks for having me. I'm great.
Well, I appreciate the time, and I think this will be an interesting conversation between me and you, and just the things that you were able to accomplish with your career at Southern University. So I just want to get started with talking about the recruiting process to get to Southern University. It's a very interesting story, to say the least. Could you expound on that?
Yeah, like you said, to say the least. But God leads steps, and so it was just one of those kind of things that happened. Coming out of high school. When I was in high school, but when I moved to Dayton, let me start that over. I moved to Dayton. I went to school in California. That's where I was raised. I moved to Dayton, Ohio, in my sophomore year of high school. And that's when I kind of decided that I liked basketball and I wanted to play. And so I kind of progressed from then. And one of my goals was to earn a college scholarship. That was a goal. So I was able to do that in my senior year out of Fairview High School. Now, as I began to visit schools, Frankie Sanders, who ended up at Southern with me, he did the same. He visited with me to Southern. And how all that came together is that Coach Carl Stewart was in Dayton, and he was recruiting a player that was at a high school down the street from my high school. He was recruiting Uncle Bob, as we called him. His name is Robert Patterson. At the time, Robert Patterson was averaging 35 points a game in high school. So he was down the street. Coach Stewart was in the wrong high school. He was in my high school. And as he walked down, the hall, to get reoriented, he noticed me, going into my locker. So he asked the principal, well, who is that guy? And they're like, well, that's Lionel Garrett. He's this, he's that. Next thing I know, I'm in the principal's office and I'm visiting with Coach Stewart. And I never will forget that visit. I mean, Coach Stewart was just great, just a phenomenal recruiter, and how he showed and sold Southern University, which I had never even heard of. I wasn't even too familiar with HBCUs, of all things. At that time, growing up in California. So, and even in Dayton, I just didn't. So that's how Coach Stewart. So I mentioned to Coach Stewart, I said, well, we have some other players. Frankie Sanders was playing in the state championship, which was the next night. and you might want to go check him out, And so he did. He did, in fact, do that. And that's how he found the both of us. So all three of us came down to visit down to Baton Rouge, and it was so beautiful. We left Dayton. It was one of the typical Dayton days in March, drizzly, cold, dark, We arrive in Baton Rouge, and the sky is all blue and crispy and clear, and those little bugs are flying around, stuck to each other. It's like, what in the world? And then it turned into the land of ladies, and that's just how we looked at it compared to where compared to where we were coming from. Well, it's always a part of the story, It couldn't help it. It couldn't help it. The women at Southern, were beautiful, and that was just not we were kind of like used to, So it was, it was very unique to us, and that it was so. So you was ready. It was so beautiful. Right then, huh? Just that it was so beautiful, crispy skies, bugs flying around, beautiful girls. The mini dome. Let me continue. The mini dome was being built, and in fact, in our second year there, we would open it up, and that was pretty impressive. So, Coach Stewart had it just everything just completely laid out for us, and we were being recruited by other schools. I was being recruited. University of Dayton was recruiting me, and Frankie was being recruited by everybody, And so we made a decision, to attend Southern on our flight back home. And so, of course, everybody in Dayton, the media, at least in Dayton, was like, well, what is going on? Who is this school, and why did you do that, And but I feel like I made a perfect decision. I never growing up attended, a predominantly black school. I've always been in diverse schools. I grew up in the Air Force. And so to have the experience of attending, to start my college off at a HBCU was just the most perfect thing for me to happen for me.
Visiting with Lionel Garrett, former Southern University, great. And if you're just tuning in, Lionel was just talking kind of about the process of getting to Southern University. So the three of you, and I'm getting it right, the three of you end up at Southern University, the F.G. Clark Activity Center, which many call the Mini Dome. It's in the beginning stages of that arena. So, talk next about your career at Southern.
I'd be happy to. Southern University basketball was just incredible to me. In fact, when I began to research it, is when Ron Barrow was playing, and he was just phenomenal as a player. So, from the jump, I knew that I wanted to come into Southern, and I'm so thankful that I achieved my goal to be able to attend Southern, and just keep trying to achieve goals. And so the talent that Coach Stewart put all of us around each other was pretty unique as well. And that was very motivating to have, Tommy Green and Pop Green, playing along with my homeboy Frankie and Kylie Davis, who actually walked onto the team. He walked onto the team. He was not recruited. He saw us playing over at the School for the Deaf. That's where we used to play. He saw us playing. He came over there with some black silk socks on and some shorts and asked if he could play. So, well, sure. And so he commenced to just killing all of us. So we're like, hey, you got to come out to the team. And the rest is history. But just being surrounded by, those kind of guys on the basketball court and the incredible Coach Stewart was ahead of his time, as far as, a running game, a transition game. In fact, some of the coaches like Bobby Knight and those guys, they would fly Coach in to talk to them about the fast break. So, it was just phenomenal, motivating, and I can't even. There's so many great memories from those days.
Well, we're gonna pick your brain about some of the memories. I also got a listener already who want me to ask you a question,
Okay.
and we'll get it
Okay.
in within the framework of our discussion. You
Sounds
mentioned some of those players, that 78 team, and also, if you're on social media, you've probably seen that poster that's going around. All 5 of you guys,
Yeah.
you got drafted to the NBA, and I'm sure you've seen it.
Yeah. Actually, I posted it.
Yeah.
Someone sent it. Someone sent it to me, and I like Black history, so I said, "Hey, this is good Black history." So I put it out there, and the response was pretty unbelievable. The response just really was a great response of, a lot of Southern alumni people and having sidebar conversations and memories, and it was a beautiful thing. And yes, that actually was a poster. That the picture was a poster from when we were playing Texas Southern at Texas Southern. That was their poster, and that was the information, our information, as far as for that game. I mean, not just us. There were several other players, teammates that I had that were drafted as well, and that makes the history of Southern. So Tommy and Pop and Frankie, they left in '78, which was my junior year. It was Tommy and Pop's senior year, and Frankie left early. He went what they called then hardship. He left early in his junior year out of Southern in 1978. It was the 19th pick in the first round of the San Antonio Spurs. Then Tommy went to the New Orleans Jazz when they were in New Orleans. That was perfect fit. That was perfect fit for Tommy. And Pop went to the Knicks and made his mark when he was with the Knicks. So those guys were gone, and then in '79, of the rest of that starting 5 team, I was drafted by the San Diego Clippers, and Collie was drafted by the Houston Rockets. And so, we all had various amount of time that we actually, played in the league. I think that, well, of course, Frankie played the longest. Frankie and Tommy played the longest. I signed a contract. I went through the process. I was just right there, but I ended up playing with the Globetrotters, and believe it or not, those things were kind of connected. So we were very blessed, had great teams. Scouts would be, they would come to our practices, and, I think it was really Ron Barrow who really opened up that door as far as at that time for scouts to kind of look down at Southern, which was highly unusual at that time. The SWAC as well, producing, really phenomenal players like the Jackson Purvis and Eugene Short, I should say, at Jackson State, and just a lot more, So it was a unique time.
Yeah, you're right. One of the questions was, ask Lionel who was the toughest player in the SWAC he played against. And then after you answer that, I want to know how those practices at Southern they were for you guys. Boy, okay. I'm sure it was very competitive. But your toughest player you had to play against in the Southwestern Athletic Conference.
Yeah, well, I played individually, and then just as far as what we saw seen as a team. Yeah, I played forward and center, and so I would have to say that during my time, for what I played and what I was trying to accomplish on the court, was Larry Smith. He was a nemesis, and he ended up having a very long career in the NBA. But in college, our games were the same. We were both trying to do the same things, and so, he was very, very tough player. But that's just an individual one-on-one matchup. As far as in the SWAC, oh my God, I can't even, I don't know. I mean, you got the Short, you got Purvis. Short was so smooth, you got Larry Wright, the little guard that was just You know,
you say little gun.
Yeah, he was
tough.
Yeah, he was just tough. You know, I mean, and there are even more teammates that I had, like, but I didn't play against. You know, just in the SWAC, like Tony Murphy. You know, when Tony was leading the nation in scoring, you know, he made sure that everybody else on the court knew. You know how you talk a little trash. Tony's main thing was to yell, "Face the nation."
Yeah.
Face the nation.
And he could shoot it. Whoo, boy, he
sir.
was literally a scorer. You know, you have the scorers and shooters.
Yeah.
To me, he was a scorer.
Yeah. Absolutely. Fun guy, great guy. Was my roommate. Which I didn't really like. He was too crazy for me. I wake up and my bed is turned upside down. I'm like, come on, man, Murph, please.
Oh, that's good.
What are you doing, man? Just had that energy.
And Lionel, you mentioned Mr. Barrow. We call him Mr. Barrow. When we talked this week, the way you talked about him, this guy was just incredible.
Yes, I really thought that he was. We all think that he was. I mean, he's in what I think it was NAI at that time, but he's leading the nation in scoring, averaging 35. And, you know, it wasn't like he was the best ball handler in the world. He was just getting in that lane, and he could pull up from any place, you know, just a beautiful stroke, you know, incredible footwork, and just consistent with it. It was just, you know, if we had the 3-point shot at that time, no telling how many he would have averaged at that time, and no one could stop him. You know, no one could stop him, and just a pro. You know, he was like a pro. The way he carried himself, you know, with his teammates and everything, just really, never did anything to piss anybody off, or he was just motivating, kind of quiet kind of guy. He was a great teammate, and he could shoot the heck out of that ball.
And speaking of teammates. You talked about on the court and the chemistry. How about off the court? Did you guys were like really brothers, but you had a really sense of chemistry off the court as well?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you, and it's one of the examples I have used through the years as a coach.
Yes,
about being teammates. At Southern, it was so much talent, so it had to be some egos involved. You know, you got Frankie J over here. I'm not gonna say me. You got Frankie J over here, and you got Pop Green over there. You know, and so while us, the guys from Ohio, man, we really respected and looked up to, my God rest his soul, and one of my best friends in the world, Tommy Green, and Pop. The guys. So that was more of our attitudes. It's like, hey, it's for you all. This is your town, but there's that ego stuff. So off the court, we didn't hang out a lot. We just kind of hung out and did our own thing. Okay, but on the court, we clicked. And we knew how to play together, and that's kind of unique. Normally you kind of get that type of development because you become a family off the court, But we really just kind of, Frankie and I just hung out. The third player, Robert Patterson, he left before we started playing. So, he couldn't, when he saw, and this the kid that I was 35 coming up, when he saw Tommy and Pop, we were, working out, he just didn't see any way he could start. So his ego said, I'm going home or transferring. So
that is interesting because, that's why I asked a question about the chemistry on and off the court. But it sounds like the chemistry on the court was most important, and you don't just have to necessarily hang together off the court, but you had a job to do. And
Coach Stewart was so intelligent. At that time, what he did was he defined our roles, and our roles fit, and we understood what our roles were on the court. So that made it a lot easier to blend, on the court as well. And that was part of, Coach Stewart, the way he coached us.
And speaking of roles, and I'm reading, you can read the article, Dayton Daily News, on Lionel Garrett, a nice picture. You look the same, Lionel, from what I remember.
Well,
you're still 6'9".
I'm still, I haven't started going in a different direction, except for I no longer have hair,
But that's a good thing. I don't either.
Yeah. Okay, so we're all right then.
Yeah, excellent. But speaking of roles, and I was reading the article, and I believe it was someone trying to pull it up quickly, but the person basically told you, when you get to Southern, focus on rebounding, and they will, the college basketball world would know who you were because of rebounding. Right. And then you became a rebounding machine at Southern. In your senior season, you averaged 15 boards a game, third best in the nation, behind Monty Davis of Tennessee State. San Francisco's Bill Cartwright, heard him, and Indiana State's Larry Bird finished behind you. Yes. So rebounding.
Yes.
That was your forte, and that's what you developed.
Well, in high school, in my senior year, and what Coach Stewart was recruiting was a player that was averaging 20 points and 20 rebounds. So rebounds is always, I just kind of grew into it. When I got to Southern, that's when I became the rebound doctor. So part of that was, like I said, mentioned earlier, Coach Stewart defined roles, and that was my role. And that's what I meant by each of our roles were perfectly set for us as well. So when you have a up-tempo team like the way we were, you got to get it off the boards and go.
Yes, sir.
And so that was my role, and I was just trying to fit in, get in where I fit in with those guys. They was running and shooting and everything. So the role fit me perfectly. So I was able to master that and get us ignited. The thing about Coach Stewart, though, and the thing that ended up helping my career is that just because I or whoever, is the outlet man, in his way of running, we didn't have like a drag offense. Everybody got to be past that half court in 5 seconds. And coach is really looking for 3 seconds for the guards, So I had to get it off the board and run to my spots, and it was just something that I loved to do. And I studied my teammates, and that's why I was able to average about the same amount in points with those guys, is because I would get them off the boards, So I would study, offense. I would study my teammates and kind of have a feeling for where they like to shoot from the most, and typically where a rebound may bounce off the rim, so I can start leaning in that direction and see if I can catch that ball at the highest point or whatever point, and go. So it was just, I've been coaching a long time, and I'll tell you though that that time, because I was a student of the game, I'm studying my teammates, and I'm focused on getting every single rebound. That was the only part of the game that I felt like you could be selfish in. It was me against everybody on the court. I didn't want Tommy to get a rebound. This is my rebound.
Clean it off the glass, the outlet, get the fast break going. Because I said early on in the show, talking to fans during that time, they were accustomed to seeing up tempo. I mean, it was really up tempo, and compared to, now it's just different. I think that was the style that really people appreciated.
Yeah, I think, and of course, in that style is still, like I said, Coach Stewart was one of the innovators. A lot of teams still, but I do understand that some of the schools in the SWAC are playing a little slower tempo, and I think that I don't know, but it may be because the way their schedules are designed now as well. A lot of SWAC schools are playing big NCAA Division I teams, and so they want to fall into their style of being more of a control team, and so that just I don't know, cause of conflict. I believe that the object of the game is to put the ball in the hole, and you need to do that more than your opponent as quickly as you can. So
I've heard that before.
Yes.
Coach Stewart, Coach Joe.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. We're visiting with Lionel Garrett, former Southern University, rebounding. What did you say? You were a doctor?
Oh, I have a player development business I've had for several years now, and it's called Rebound Doctor. Total skill enhancement. Yeah, that's the name.
That's what I'm gonna call you. The Rebound Southern University Rebound Doctor.
And it was also kind of flowed out of my nickname that I had with the Globetrotters. So it's all kind of in that vein. Yeah.
That is very interesting. Lionel, so you finished your career at Southern University, the rebounding specialist. You get drafted in the 4th round, 1979 by the Clippers. Another guy, I guess, did you get a chance to see? Bill Walton, who, boy, he had his problems, and he's more famous now in broadcasting than his great playing days at UCLA. But then you ended up, making it with the Globetrotters. Talk about that experience.
Yeah, there was just a lot of synergy that happened with that. Of course, I was drafted by the Clippers, and I ended up signing a contract and being the only draft pick or free agent that was still around after that. And Bill Walton, he was traded to the Clippers that year, and he had some problems with his feet. So Gene Shue, who was the coach at that time, he decided that he needed this experience alongside of Bill because of his feet. So he traded for Joe Bryant, Kobe's dad, and Marvin Barnes, Bad News Marvin Barnes.
Oh yeah.
So he traded for them, and so that put me on the bubble. It's a business. But it just so happened that the same scout that scouts for the NBA also scouted for the Globetrotters. So he had told the organization that the Globetrotters wanted me. I didn't know why they did, but he had told the organization that, and that if you're not going to, keep me past a certain date, that you should go ahead and release me, so that I can go and do that. And that's what generally I was explained on that fateful day of when it was time for me to be waived. And so, and they did. My Gene Shue, the coaching staff, they explained to me that. Don't worry, you have another job, and it ended up being joining the Globetrotters, and that's when that started. So all those things kind of worked together.
And boy, there were some great players on that Globetrotters team,
Yes,
and
sir.
I mean, when you look at those guys, though, they perform. Of course, their performance, but how were they off the court?
Yes. Unbelievable. I'll start with my man, Billy Ray Hobley. And the reason why is because he was my best friend. God rest his soul. He played at HBCU. He played at Dillard, So when you look Billy Ray up and you see him at Dillard, he was an awesome player in college. And we played against him. I've known him since then. So, but I didn't know that we were going to become teammates. Billy Ray's personality and his lifestyle off the court was just incredible. All of the guys, just really good people. We took a lot of pride in being goodwill ambassadors, and so we had to be that way. When we're out of the country, in the country, and at home when it's break time. Geese Osby was our showman, and off the court he's just like a quiet pastor. And he was the showman. He get at the front of the bus and you start reading the Bible. Can't wait to get to a phone so he can call his family. Just constantly like that. Curly Neal, and God rest his soul, Curly was just a phenomenal basketball player for one thing. He was our dribbler, as everyone knows. But I mean, his personality just shined, all the way to his last days. So the guys off the court were really, really good. They really were Globetrotters and goodwill ambassadors. We had no problems.
Yeah, I appreciate that insight. And because we see the glamour on the court, but these players, they're human as well. They live,
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that, because a lot of the guys with the Globetrotters, they have like 20-year careers, and so we all go through how that affects your family, but most of them, they survive through it. They maintain their marriages and their families and stuff. But I mean, we're on the road 7, 8, 9 months every year, straight. At that time, that's how we played. Yeah. So I was a young man, it didn't matter to me, and so it was easy for me to get my 3-4 years in and move on. I was just so competitive that I just always felt like this would be temporary, playing with the Globetrotters. I never will, just to tell you a quick little story, I never will forget, though, when I found out that, that it was a Globetrotters. I flew home from San Diego, flew to Dayton, and my father tells me to make a phone call to my agent when I land, go to the payphone, call him. He's saying, Lionel, where are you? I've been trying to reach you. We didn't have cell phones in those days.
Yeah, I understand.
And I was on that long flight across the country. And so he said, you're supposed to be in Los Angeles. And I'm like, why am I supposed to be in Los Angeles? I'm hurt. I just want to go to Europe or something. Just get me something in Europe. He's like, no, to join the Globetrotters. And I'm like, come on, man, Be for real. I don't know anything about spinning the ball on my head. And so he told me, he said, well, no, here's what's going to happen. They're going to match the contract that you signed, with the Clippers, and they don't want you to spin the ball. They want you to rebound for them. They got to get the rebounds.
There you go.
Just do it, and that's when the rebound doctor was born.
Yeah, and you got to have the guys that's gonna rebound. The toughness.
Oh yeah. With the Trotters, that was the only area, or one of the few areas of the game, of the show, that the Washington Generals, our opponent, if it's a missed shot, you can go try to get that, because they want possessions, because they want to win. They actually want to win. So they knew that if we miss, if they got their rebound, then that gives them more pace. They, get more possessions to try to score and maybe keep the game close and win. That was actually their goals. We would be out there fighting sometimes.
Wow. The inside of the game. And last but not least, and Lionel, we appreciate the time. Very fascinating conversation with you. Now you're coaching at Wilberforce.
Yes,
how special is that? You've played the game. Now you're teaching and passing on your basketball knowledge and other aspects of life to your players. Talk about that.
Yes, sir. I'm very blessed. I've coached internationally and I've coached collegiately, and Wilberforce is my third HBCU that I've coached at, and that's the only colleges I've only coached at black colleges. And so I coached at Miles College in Birmingham, Talladega College in Alabama, and now I'm at Wilberforce going into my 4th year. In fact, the last 2 years I switched over and I'm coaching women, and I love it. And it's because I was needed, but it's because my love for the game. Coaching women, as I evolve more as a coach, as I evolve more as a development guy, then just that drew me to women, because women play below the rim, so you have to teach them different things, and so I'm able to continue to teach and study and experiment and learn. But the guys, they're hard headed because they want to just dump, and they come from their high schools without those fundamentals, because the coach just wanted them to dump for the most part. So, but I love coaching the guys, of course, which I've done forever. But I guess that's my expression of why I love coaching the women. And we were very successful. We made history at Wilberforce in the past 2 years, and simply by being the first team ever as far as the women's program, or any of the programs at Wilberforce, to go to our NAIA national championship. We did that back to back. We did that this past season that ended in last season. In fact, the season ended after we played our first game in the tournament. And then that's when all games were cut off. So we were able to squeeze our game off, you know. But so at Wilberforce, Wilberforce University is in Wilberforce, Ohio, which is like right outside of Dayton, my home. And just a historical school that, you know, we just need to get that word out. And there's so many just great people that are alumni of Wilberforce. And Wilberforce University is the first, private historically Black college. So it's old. It goes all the way back to the Lincoln days, you know. And so in that history and that survival that has always had to go through is the way that we express our women's team, you know, with all of that. And so it's just a beautiful situation. It's a blessing. I wasn't even expecting. I moved because I've coached I've coached in 3 different countries as well, and that's a blessing. I coached in Mexico and the LMBP, which is their professional basketball league. I did that, I guess, about 4 years. Won a championship. Some of my best friends. I coached in the Yucatan, a beautiful area of Mexico. I coached the Mayas, the Yucatan team. I coached in Cyprus as well, a beautiful island in the middle of the Mediterranean, and that was more like a vacation. and I've coached in Saudi Arabia. And Saudi Arabia, I'll tell you this about Saudi Arabia: they got the best chicken in the world. Chicken.
Really?
Chicken.
See,
the food is good in Saudi.
Here.
yeah. I'll give you the little things. Yeah.
But you know that's interesting. As we close this conversation with Lionel Garrett, and at the end of the story on the news article about you, it says once again, Lionel Garrett seems to be in the right place at the right time. That kind of sums up what you talked about
rebound.
Today. Getting the rebound, being at the right place when Coach Stewart comes to visit, and then heading to Southern University and just enjoying all of the you still get points for that, for the beautiful scenery at Southern University, including the sky.
Bonus points.
and just always being around to help people, and then coaching and you're still helping people. That sums it up for you.
That's right. Yes, sir.
So with that being said, we will visit with you again. Once again, I appreciate the time and history. Yeah, history. Yeah. You just gave us some things we learned that we didn't know, and I kind of like to do these type of interviews, and hopefully there are other guys in the conference that have had an impact. I'll try to connect with them as well. But
Lionel, so many memories. I have so much more. Anytime.
You have a great weekend, the rest of your weekend. Appreciate the time, and we will talk again real soon.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Appreciate it. That was Lionel Garrett. Played at Southern University, the rebound specialist. Doing great things and still always helping people. That's what it's all about. We'll take a time out. Overdue. Coming up next, let's see if I can get a hold of Coach Pettaway, Van Pettaway, the Carlos Brown Show's basketball analyst and sports analyst. He'll join me next. And then Coach Sims, Bethune-Cookman's head football coach, will join me afterwards. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
It's the Open Mic Tele-Network line. Dial 720-721-1558, and instantly at your fingertips, you'll have the latest local news, weather, and sports. Need a word of encouragement? Dial 720-721-1558. The Open Mic Tele-Network line features weekly prayer, verse of the week, and local ministries at your fingertips. Everything you need on demand. Dial 720-721-1558. 1558. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. No internet, no problem. No Wi-Fi, no problem. No app, no problem. All you need to do is dial 720-721-1558 to listen now.
I present to you 3 of the fiercest subjects ever assembled in the cage of doom. First, the brain-wrenching behemoth, Algebra 2! Weighing in at a mind-boggling 800 pounds. Foreign languages! The multilingual international sensation capable of tossing you clear across the Atlantic. And finally, biology. More ferocious than formaldehyde, she'll dissect you 1 chromosome at a time. Who among you will step up to their challenge?
Yeah, I'll do it. Me too. I'm in. Sign me up.
Take on the tough classes now. You need them to prepare for college. Find out which classes you need at knowhowtogo.org.
Brought to you by the American Council on Education, Lumina Foundation for Education, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. If you're just tuning in, you missed Lionel Garrett, former Southern University basketball player. Really, it was a very good and interesting conversation with Mr. Garrett. Now, my basketball analyst, and he's a coach, and he knows basketball as well. Coach Van Pettaway. Coach, good morning to you.
Hey, good morning, Carlos. I'm doing great. I hope everybody's doing fine.
Yeah, well, they're doing fine. And on this end, and Lionel Garrett told me to tell you hello. He said, I know Coach Pettaway.
Yeah, he's a great guy, man. I met him a few years back. I want to say the early 80s or mid 80s is when I first met him. Mm-hmm. And he was coaching. He coached at 2 different places that I can remember, Miles and at Talladega. And also he coached several all-star teams too, because several of my players as seniors have played. He has coached them in some of these all-star exhibitions. You know, they used to have a all-star game every year in Atlanta for the HBCU players. It was more like a combine for guys to get looks. And Lionel was always one of the coaches. If he was not the head coach, he was certainly an assistant coach on the staff. So his basketball lineage goes back a long way, and he's a great person. That's the thing that I really remember about him. In fact, Lionel and Coach Smith, Larry Smith, who used to be at Alcorn, they are 2 guys that are totally different on the court, off the court. On the court, man, they are animals. They are beasts in the paint. But off the court, man, those are the easiest going guys you'd ever want to lay your eyes on. They're great, man. They're great human beings. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's hard. It's rare to find that combination because most people they can't turn it on and off like that. But on the court, very competitive. Off the court, they lay back and mild mannered.
And, you know, it's interesting talking with him once again. And, you know, I kind of tease Alcorn State about being, you know, much more competitive in other sports besides football, but basketball. And talking, when you brought up Larry Smith, when we talked to, I talked to Coach Garrett, you know, before today, he said, man, Alcorn State, whoo, that was a great basketball program at the time. Yes. And they used to go at it, but there is, I guess what I'm saying is there is some good history.
Right.
In this league, basketball-wise. Just look at the talent that's come through, and the coaches. That's come through this conference.
Yep, the SWAC has, they've made their mark in athletics, football, basketball, baseball. It's there. It's in the history book. It can't be refuted.
And I go back to when you're at Alabama A&M and you're in the conference. You could see that right away. I know Coach Pettaway knew what Alabama A&M was getting into coming into conference, and also Alabama A&M had a history as well, a good one in basketball.
Right. The history of the SWAC is just there, man. We've had some great players, some great coaches, and one of the guys that we don't even talk about a lot is Coach Wright, Larry Wright. Now he played at Grambling, won an NBA championship with the Washington Bullets at the time, but he's also a great coach and a great person. And he's one of the people that I met when I first got started in the SWAC, and we bonded because we both love to fish. When you wanted to find us, we both out on the water, man. We always, our commonality was being on that water, and that's another great person, a great SWAC story. Larry Smith, NBA championship.
Yeah,
Larry Wright. I'm sorry, Larry Wright. Yep,
yes,
the point guard at Grambling.
Now, Coach Pettaway, did you know that Lionel Garrett played in the SWAC, his collegiate basketball?
Yeah. I knew a lot about Lionel because he and Coach Baker were always together, and so we've been to all kind of things together. Not only coaching events.
Mm-hmm.
It was more of a family atmosphere when we had our retreats and stuff. So we got a chance to have some one-on-one. It wasn't always us competing against each other. We actually socialized. So I got a chance to know Lionel, and that's my first time hearing all of the great stories about Tommy Green. See, I knew Tommy Green before Coach Joe started talking about him, and it was through Lionel. So it was he was an amazing person, man. He is an amazing person because Lionel is still getting it done.
Would you say that we're going down memory lane? I understand, but it's some good memories. What you know of Tommy Green, was he, in your opinion, a traditional point guard, or was he what we would call a combo guard? He could play both guard spots.
I think
how would Coach Pettaway think of him?
I would say he was more of a combo. He can get it done either way, and he was a great competitor. He just really competed, man, and that's one of the things that Coach Joe liked about him because as a coach, he would take that same aggressiveness and competitiveness, and he would put it out there on the basketball court in recruiting. So Tommy has always been a great access to Southern University.
And it's interesting because I've told you this before, and we've talked about it on the show. When you look at styles of play, and it's just amazing how fans love that up tempo. Yep. When I think about you at Alabama A&M, word association, I think about defense first, but also your teams, to me, wanted to play, and they had a tempo that then they tried to force other teams to play at maybe a tempo that maybe they were not comfortable with.
Right, that was the whole goal. And see what we try, and that's what I use. That's what helped me to recruit kids. I said, look, with the way we play, I got to play a lot of people. I said, because 5 guys can't go out and play the way I want the game played, because you got to give it to me on both ends. You got to give it to me on the defensive end. You got to give it to me on the offensive end. And I just pull the stats out and show them. I said, look at how many people we got in double-digit minutes that play the game. I said, so if you want to come to a program where you can contribute, this is the place to be. Because of my style of play, the way we play, you will get playing time if you come in and do the work. So it really helped us. And to be honest, as a coach, it was easier to coach that way, up tempo. It was easy for the kids to pick up it was easier for me as a coach. You know, a lot of times you get these kids and you try to give them too much to do, and they're on the floor thinking instead of reacting. And the best athlete is the one that goes out there and reacts. So you got to try to clear their minds so they can perform to their utmost. And it was successful for me.
Visiting with Coach Van Pettaway, Coach Brown Show's basketball analyst. Back to styles, and Coach, if you had to tell or talk to someone, maybe as a consultant, and you look at the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference, I'm sure you're more familiar with the conference than I am. Is there a big significance in the style of play in the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference compared to the Southwestern Athletic Conference, or
yes,
is it more similar? Okay, we'll talk about that.
Okay, well, see, they play. Okay, most of those schools are located on the East Coast, so they play for the majority, they play a different brand of basketball. It's more post up, it's more inside game, it's more physical than what we do in the SWAC, and that's just the nature of the beast. You look at where the areas that comprise the MEAC. You look at all those teams that are on that Eastern Seaboard. That's the way they play out there. They're not. You got very few teams that are up tempo, but they're gonna walk that thing down. They're gonna pound that thing inside. They're gonna milk that clock. When you look at their scoring versus the SWAC scoring, there's a big difference. And then when we play against those teams, we have to try to get them out of their comfort zone. Now, for me, when I was at Alabama A&M, we only got the opportunity against South Carolina State. Okay, but now I attempted my entire time in the SWAC. I tried to get a preseason tournament going between the two conferences, the SWAC and the MEAC. But I got two. I had enough people in the SWAC that were willing to do it. Did not get enough support from the MEAC because their thing was we're the only two black conferences. Why should we beat up on each other when we know we got to go out here and play all these guarantee games? And that was the mentality of the coaches that I talked to in that league during that time, particularly Fang Mitchell. Coach Mitchell was adamant about it. Man, we don't need to be playing each other, Van. He says, we got enough out here playing against these other guys. And now we're going to beat each other up. And so we could never pull that off. But that was my dream, for us to have a preseason tournament between the two black conferences. But I could not get enough. Most of the guys that I talked to in the SWAC, they were willing to do it, to play in the tournament. But we could not get enough pull from the MEAC.
And what would have been maybe a number of teams between the two where you're looking at?
Well, when you start with a classic, you start with 4 teams.
Okay.
Okay, and the money for us would have been, if we'd have been able, I pitched Birmingham. I pitched Fair Park. And I had, at the time, I had Alabama State willing to agree. So if we play a classic, we would swap opponents on Saturday and Sunday. And I went after Coppin State. I went after Winston-Salem was in there at the time. I went after teams. I went after Howard. I went after A&T. I went after teams, and we say you do a 2-year commitment. The next year we'll play on the East Coast. You come to the South this year. Alabama State, Alabama A&M participate. Then the next year you all will host, and we'll come up there and play. So I was only 2 games off our schedule. But it would have been a preseason tournament or preseason classic for our conferences. And I just thought it would be good for black college basketball. I thought it would have been a great recruiting tool.
Yeah, I can see that, and I'm getting responses from listeners as far as a great idea. So, Coach Pettaway, that leads me back to this. FAMU, of course, and Bethune-Cookman in the conference, and in lieu of what you said in their basketball styles, will it be a big adjustment for them coming into the conference as far as style of play, or just throw that out the book? They will adapt and they will do what they have to do to be successful.
Yeah, certainly they're going to adapt. That's right. That's automatic. They are going to adapt. They're going to play. They're going to play to their strength. They're going to make whatever adjustment they need to make. If the coaches on those staffs are going to scout us, they're going to look at film on us, and then they will adjust their programs to make sure that they are successful. They're going to do what it's going to take. I expect them to come in and compete. They're not coming in to lay down.
No, I would agree with you. They're competitors. Hashtag competitive, and that's what it's all about. But it is interesting the history that you talk about in trying to put together those basketball tournaments and the style of play geographically that is important. So it's going to be interesting to see how all of this fits in, and that's the beauty of it. That's a good thing. How do I fit in? I'm going to be competitive. And then maybe they may be thinking maybe I'll force some of the SWAC institutions now to kind of look at what they're doing, especially if they come in and they're very successful. Albeit, Coach, I know SWAC institutions are saying, wait a minute, not so fast, buddy.
Right. It's not going to be an easy task. And with them being the new kids on the block, they're going to be treated just like that. These coaches are going to get together. And they coming out. They coming out with guns blazing when they play those two schools. Watch what I tell you.
Mm-hmm. Well, up tempo, half court. Who can impose their tempo on other teams? Who can make them maybe do something they're not comfortable doing? Right, and their roster is going to dictate how they play now. Mm-hmm. They may not have the same personnel that they had when they were competing in the MEAC. So the makeup of their roster is going to have a great influence as to how they play when they compete against the SWAC. Wow. I tell you what, they should have you as a consultant. Any institution. And by the way, I've been seeing some of like Alabama State. They've been bringing in some recruits. On paper, I know everything looks great. I noticed I'm on their mailing list. Prairie View has brought in some players, and boy, it's going to be exciting. It's going to be exciting. I watch everybody, sir. Excuse me. I watch everybody. See, you don't slip. You watch everything. You observe. Yeah, and so they're already a great basketball program. They're just adding on. Right. What Dr. Jackson used to say, that used to be the band director at Southern University, is wartime. Yep. And we've got to have the resources to go to war. They're the defending champions, so hey, everybody's gonna be gunning after them. Yep, Prairie View is the one coming in with the target on their back 2 years in a row. They deserve it. So everybody else in the league, they've got to step their games up to try to dethrone Prairie View. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. But I like the addition of Bethune-Cookman and Florida A&M coming into the conference. The next big thing is to figure out a schedule. How are we going to play? Are we going round robin? Are we going east and west when it comes to basketball? That's going to be the next big test for the SWAC office. And in my closing, Coach Pettaway, you know how it's been for years. Of course, I understand the concept. You have travel partners, Southern and Alcorn, Alabama State and Alabama A&M. So in previous years, decades, Southern's going to play Texas Southern and Prairie View, the first conference games every year in and year out. Would this be an opportunity to kind of look and maybe think outside the box and, mix it up a little bit? It'd be nice to play somebody else first in the conference instead of the same. But that's just me now. I may be in the minority on this. But, it did change because when we were in the SWAC, when we first got in there, it was Pine Bluff and Valley. Then it ended up being Grambling and Jackson State. So it changed during my 10 years in the SWAC because
the schedule rotated around to where our opening and closing teams change. So there's a possibility that will change again. Because I remember that Murderers Row, man. We used to have to play. We used to have to play Southern, Alcorn, Grambling, and Jackson in the last 4 games, and that's tough. That was tough. That was very tough because those programs were always so competitive. Yep.
But you were up to the challenge. I can see you on courtside now.
Yeah, we had to.
If looks could kill.
Yep, but it drained us too much. That was a big haul. That was a big haul. But yeah, they're gonna have all kinds of ways, and they'll put their heads together and come up with the right thing for basketball. I have no doubt about it. Dr. McClellan down there at the SWAC office, he and his staff have been doing an outstanding job, and I think they're gonna continue doing that.
I would agree. On that note, Coach, stay safe as always, you and the family. And we always appreciate the insight and the perspective on sports and basketball.
All right, thank you. And you guys be blessed and be safe.
Thank you, sir. Look forward to doing it again.
All right.
Real
Bye-bye.
soon. All right. Bye-bye. That was Coach Van Pettaway, Coles Brown Show's basketball analyst. Always insightful. Let me read this quickly, then we'll get to our next time out. And Coach Sims, Bethune-Cookman College football coach. A listener says, Edwin from the great state of Texas, love the interview. I remember Bobby Knight inviting Alcorn to their annual classic with Syracuse in New York. Bobby made it the three of them while inviting a rotating 14, which was also a non-HBCU. So it would have been cool to have an all-HBCU classic, referring to Coach Pettaway and what he thought about and was trying to accomplish. So you don't have to take a backseat to anybody. SWAC alums, this conference has done outstanding. Not only football, but basketball and baseball. And we'll be talking more baseball in the upcoming weeks as well. Conference expansion. When we get all this pandemic behind us, you've got an outstanding conference. It always was outstanding, but now it's changing. It's evolving. And that's a good thing. Coming up next, Coach Terry Sims, Bethune-Cookman College football coach. He joins me next. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
As a dad, you'll probably spend years teaching your son how to hit a baseball, how to throw a tight spiral and hit a receiver, how to spring off a diving board and hit the water, how to hit a 1-wood and a 9-iron, how to hit the bullseye, how to hit the strike zone, hit a jump shot, hit the open man, hit the hockey net, and maybe the most challenging of all, how to hit the books. But the question is this: how much time will you spend teaching him what not to hit? Teach your son early and often that all violence against women is wrong. For tips on what to say, visit endabuse.org. Brought to you by the Family Violence Prevention Fund, the Waite Institute for Violence Prevention, the Ad Council, and this station.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the next 7 years of bigger and bigger enrollments, America's grade schools will need nearly 250,000 extra teachers, besides those to fill normal vacancies. This great need, plus the growing public interest in education and improvements in schools, make elementary school teaching a more rewarding career than ever, a career that high school and college students should certainly consider. Education holds America's future, perhaps your future.
Welcome welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. My next guest is the head football coach at Bethune-Cookman University, Coach Sims. Coach Terry Sims. Coach, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. Well, it's afternoon where I am. How you doing?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Eastern Standard Time. Good afternoon to you, sir, and good morning to Central Standard Time. Well, Coach Sims, I want to say welcome, and you're going to be in the Southwestern Athletic Conference starting in 2021. I know you have the MEAC still for this quote-unquote upcoming season. Give me your perspective on your players and your staff about the move to the Southwestern Athletic Conference.
Well, I mean, it's like anything else. Everybody likes something new. It's a change, and change is always good with me. I mean, the MEAC has been great to us. We have a great history with the MEAC. It's bittersweet leaving because of the relationships we have with the conference and the relationships we have with all the coaches and the teams around the league. So that part is a little bittersweet, but, we're excited to go into a new conference, to create new rivalries and play new competition. So it's something that I think we're all looking forward to. It's a decision that we didn't make as coaches in none of our sports. It was our administration, our board of trustees, and whatever they say do, that's what we do. And no one's fighting it. Everybody's, welcoming it with open arms and looking forward to building great relationships with the conference. And, something that I'm sure a lot of people don't know, the commissioner of the SWAC, I've already worked for him before when he was the athletic director at Prairie View. I was an assistant there. So I know Charles McClellan very well. Very, very, very detailed and driven individual. So just excited to get back around him and, to see what he has in store for this conference, because in the last couple of years, he's done a lot of great things for the league.
Yeah, I would agree. And I must be honest, I didn't know that, being at Prairie View A&M, and that's a good thing. And you talk about establishing new relationships. I got a good look at you guys playing Jackson State last year, and then, kind of from afar, seeing you play. What will the SWAC get when they see a Terry Sims coach at Bethune-Cookman College playing regularly in and out in the Southwestern Athletic Conference?
Well, one thing you're gonna get a disciplined, detailed football team, and you're gonna get a football team that's gonna give you a show week in, week out. We're gonna make it worth our fans' while to come out and watch us play, because that's who we're playing for anyway. So, you can look to see a great product put on the field, a group of young men that enjoy playing the game with each other, but not only with each other, but for each other. So, I think it's something, we have a lot of great coaches in the SWAC. I know a lot of those guys. I've coached with a few of them. This is not my first time. I spent a few years in the SWAC. I coached at Texas Southern 5 years and Prairie View 1. So I spent some time in the SWAC. And we have played SWAC teams, in the past, since I've been here at Bethune-Cookman. So we're not strangers to the league. We're just part of the conference now and just eager to get going.
And I'm looking at, and by the way, we're visiting with Terry Sims, head football coach at Bethune-Cookman College. Impressive resume defensively, always in the top for statistical-wise in the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference. A special situation a few years ago, you guys played Southeastern, AFCS brethren. You guys defeated them, and on the way back, a hurricane hit in the Daytona Beach area. So you guys stayed over in Baton Rouge, and I'm assuming because you knew Coach Odom, that relationship, you were able to bunker down for a few days. Talk a little bit about that. That to me, that shows a lot about brotherhood.
Yeah, it does. And, just having that situation happen, it was a little rough for our administration. It was rough for our coaches, our support staff, and our players. We were confined to a hotel for 4 days, after the game. So it was a little tough. But, knowing Coach Odom, and the thing that a lot of people don't know, Coach Dawson Odom, we actually were in the head coaches academy together with the NCAA years ago when we were both assistants. So we go way back. We go way back, and we have a great relationship. And when we made the call, because he actually coached here at Bethune-Cookman University before I did. So a lot of people had, a lot of ties to him, and with us having a relationship and his offensive coordinator at the time, I've known Coach Chennis Berry, who's now the head coach at Benedict, for a long time. So they were, definitely like, come on over. These are the times that we're practicing. Any other times, whatever you need, weight room, practice field, whatever you need, you guys have it. And they opened up their facilities to us and allowed us to work out and practice and do our team's laundry right there, on site. So it was great. It was a time that could have been very, very, very difficult for us. They eased all of that. They allowed us to get back to some sense of normalcy. And, we could never repay them for that, just for the hospitality and the just being good-natured individuals.
And after all that said and done, Coach Sims and Bethune-Cookman, when you meet up with Southern University, I think it's still going to be a situation where, we still have a job to do. So both coaches are going to try to win that football game. But that was a great brotherhood and human interest story, that difficult time that you guys were going through. But Coach Sims, I would like to know, from the outside looking in, big win against Southeastern. You won out of conference. You've played up several times. But I got to bring up the success that you guys have had over FAMU. My goodness. I've been on the other side of that. No, I'm not going to mention Southern's record against Alcorn. But that is a very impressive feat. A rival, your arch rival. Talk about that whole atmosphere and then trying to get your teams to block out all of the festivities and zero in on getting the job done.
Well, I mean, it's like, to us, we try and treat it as much as we can like any other game. I mean, it's hard because it's the classic, but, I try to tell my players all the time. Homecoming, the classic, games with a lot of festivities, all of that stuff is for the fans. We are part of the entertainment. So you can't get caught up in other things that are going on, that week. You have to prepare to go out and do your job. And we preach that to our guys, day in and day out for that. We don't look ahead. We don't plan for the classic weeks ahead. We worry about the games that are in front of us. But, we've had a great run. And, hopefully it continues because our guys prepare hard for every game. And, the Florida Classic is a special game. It's a special competition between two schools that have so much rich history with each other. And, we do a lot together as universities, but on that day, it's war. And we all understand that. Coach Willie Simmons, I can say this, and I'm sure he won't have a problem with it. he's one of my best friends in this profession. You know, we bounce a lot of things off each other. Now, the day before at the luncheon and the day of the classic, you know, it's time to get ready to go to work. And like you said, everybody's going to try to win. But at the end of the day, it's about putting all of our young men in a position to be successful. They're playing on a huge stage on national TV in front of, 50, 60,000 fans in the stadium. So it's a great event. And, we have to do everything we can do to be prepared. They beat us our first year here in 2010. And it's a crazy story because we were 10-0 going into that game. And we ended up losing 3 quarterbacks leading up to that game. And it was a tough night for us, then. But our guys, just like, I know Fam does every year, they prepare for the game. And our guys just believe right now that, they can win. And that's half the battle. Believing that you can do it. Buying into what's going on with our program. So it's been great, and I think, with us both moving to the SWAC, we'll be able to keep the Florida Classic and keep it going and continue to give our student athletes as well as our fans something to look forward to at the end of the season before the playoffs start.
Coach, before we let you go, got a question from a listener. He says, hey, ask Coach, does he anticipate recruiting more in Louisiana and Texas now that they are playing in that footprint?
Well, we recruit everywhere. We have players from Texas on our team now. We don't have a problem. We've had a tight end that we signed was from Boston. We have kids from all over. And to answer that question, yes, I have no issue recruiting in Louisiana. There are a lot of great football players in that state. And obviously there are a lot of great football players in the state of Texas. And me being in the state of Texas for a number of years coaching at the University of Louisiana Lafayette, in Louisiana, I understand that there's a lot of great football players there. So we're going to continue to recruit Florida and our hotbeds, but we'll definitely branch out and reach out and see if we can grab some guys from some other areas. Without a doubt, that has no. I should say this: we're not afraid to go anywhere and recruit.
Yeah, somehow I knew you were going to say that, Coach. Coach Sims. A football player, you go find them and that can meet what you're trying to do as a program. By all means, you have to get out and go wherever you can find those players. Well, Coach Sims, unless we meet before then, I look forward to SWAC Football Media Day 2021 when you guys will be assembled in a central place, and it will signify the start of the season. And Coach Sims, hopefully with this pandemic at that time, things are a lot better. But I appreciate the time, and have a great weekend, and we'll talk again real soon.
Hey, anytime you need me, man, I'm here. You got my number, just give me a yell.
All right, I appreciate it, Coach Sims. Have a great weekend. Thank you.
All right, you do the same.
All right. That was Coach Terry Sims, football coach at Bethune-Cookman College. We'll take a quick time out. I told him it would be quick. But Charles Edmond, he'll join me for the rest of the minutes on the show. I wonder what he has up his sleeve, what he wants to talk about. Take a quick time out. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show.
Serving the community through faith and athletics. The Open Mic Broadcast Network.
Come on, hustle. Get your head in the game. Come on.
Are you setting the right example for your kids?
You need to get some confidence.
Before your child's next game, ask yourself, how would you like it if they copied your behavior?
ad revenue has declined 15%.
Come on! You need to get some confidence.
Positive Coaching Alliance has valuable tips and tools to help our kids perform their best while keeping sports enjoyable for everyone. Positive Coaching Alliance, creating better athletes, better people.
It's the Open Mic Tele-Network line. Dial 720-721-1558, and instantly at your fingertips, you'll have the latest local news, weather, and sports. Need a word of encouragement? Dial 720-721-1558. The Open Mic Tele-Network line features weekly prayer, verse of the week, and local ministries at your fingertips. Everything you need on demand. Dial 720-721-1558. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. No internet? No problem. No Wi-Fi? No problem. No app? No problem. All you need to do is dial 720-721-1558 to listen now.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth! I have a greater responsibility than you can possibly fathom. You don't want the truth because deep down in places you don't talk about at parties, you want me on that wall. You need me on that wall.
Join us for a daily episode of the Mike Prince Show right here at the Open Mic Broadcast Network.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Coach Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Final guest of today's show, Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network. Good morning to you, Charles. I have 9 minutes exactly. They're all yours, sir.
Good morning. 9 minutes and counting. Let's go.
What is on Charles Edmond mind as far as the sports world? SWAC Virtual Media Day moved back August the 5th through the 7th. SIAC, Charles, and CIAA joint statement. They was like, nah, we're going to shut it down, at least for a while. Your thoughts?
Well, for the first time since this pandemic started, I'm very, very, very worried and concerned and scared, to be honest with you. You can throw all that in one bag. For the first time, we're kind of seeing what this thing might look like. And it's time. It's time for some answers, and we're getting those now. And nothing has been officially announced as far as the SWAC is concerned, other than the virtual media day has been pushed to August. The SEC postponed their virtual media day indefinitely a couple of weeks ago. That could have given us that could have tipped our hand right there in terms of what could be happening. You talked about the SIAC and CIAA canceling. I just read something just a few minutes ago. The state of New Mexico is the first state to cancel high school football, the entire state, for the upcoming season. So you kind of get the idea of what this thing's probably going to look like. It doesn't look very good. I'm concerned because I'm a football fan. Many football fans are concerned, nervous, scared, angry, however way you want to look at it, because you've been sitting around for 5 months, and now you're going to be sitting around another 4 months. And that's what we're going to be doing, is the way it's going right now. So, hey, I mean, this is where we are. Hunker down. Let's hope for the best. But, you know, to me, in my opinion, all the opinions about this, it's the medicine and the science versus the politics and the money. And there's one word that trumps it all. It's safety. And I think you're seeing safety rule the day right now in some of these decisions.
Charles, should I be concerned about you? Because you don't sound, I can tell you really sound down, and I understand you've been broadcasting for, 20 plus years? I'll say it that way.
Yeah.
And now the to use your words, the reality seems like it's setting in. But you're going to be okay.
Oh yeah, I'm going to be fine. I was thinking about it the other day. I've been dealing with football in some capacity since my sophomore year in high school. I did the PA for my high school team the last 2 or 3 years I was in high school. So that's 84, 83, 84, somewhere in there. So ever since 1984, I've been dealing with football in the fall. And of course, in college, dealing with football at Grambling and Alcorn. So in the fall, I'm used to being at a press box, staying on the field and touching and dealing with football. And if there's no football, it's for the first time in, 35 years, 36 years. And that's something you just don't snap a finger and do. I mean, if you're programmed and used to, tailgating and being a part of football, and I'm sure other sports fans, football fans probably feel the same way. It's going to be different. It's going to be unsettling because you've been sitting around already for 5 months, and now it looks like perhaps another 3 months if we're looking at the spring. So I'm concerned. I'm gonna be okay, but when you're used to doing this for so long, and then all of a sudden it's not there, it's not just an easy transition. So I'll be fine, but there's no question it will be difficult.
Yeah, and if you expand past the Southwest Athletic Conference, CIAA, SIAC, you're looking at the NBA attempting to restart a season. Cases are just still coming in. Players, yeah, it's just a tough situation. It really is. But I think you just have to make an adjustment. The bottom line, until this pandemic is over with or contained or whatever adjective you want to use, it's every aspect of life is changed, and you have to make an adjustment. That's kind of the way I look at it. There's only so much, Charles, I guess, YouTube games you can look at. SWAC Championship, Southern FAMU. Charles, I'm now in the point where I'm watching some of those games from the 90s and even basketball, baseball championships. That's kind of how I get my sports fix on. Do you think anybody else is doing that?
I'm sure there are. I do know my wife's aunt. She's a big Dallas Cowboy fan, and she's been looking at some of the old Dallas Cowboy games from last past season on the NFL Network. And she's cheering as if the game is live, and she already knows what the result is. That's another story for another day. Me personally, I haven't looked at a lot of sports. I've seen some soccer on ESPN. I'm anxious to see what this NBA bubble is going to look like. Some people believe it's not going to last. It's just too tempting to be quarantined for 4 months, no family. That's going to be tough. But if they can pull it off, it'll be an absolute miracle. It could happen. The NFL is still scrambling around trying to figure out how to make it work. One of the Harbaugh brothers said, the coach of the Ravens, how in the world are you going to social distance with 80 NFL guys? How are you going to make that happen? I mean, it's tough. I mean, it really is. I mean, common sense and safety at some point kick in. I'm hopeful. I mean, I was 2 months ago, I was probably at an 8, but right now I'm probably at a 2.5 right now, and probably the next week it'll probably be less than that. As I'm sure some of the Power 5, as we all know, they're not going to be one of the conferences not going to be playing non-conference games. We'll see how that impacts the SEC because we play Auburn to open up. And we'll see if that happens. So it's every day stay tuned because this thing could change. But overall, it's just very difficult to see how football's going to happen. I'm hopeful, but reality eventually takes over at some point.
And if I can pick a little bit in our closing minute, under a minute left, Troy State seems to, in football, they love playing the Southwestern Athletic Conference. several teams are going to be playing them in the upcoming seasons. And I've been noticing the different out-of-conference opponents, Alcorn, Northwestern State, Grambling, playing Northwestern State again, Louisiana Tech, those type of teams. It's going to be interesting, these future schedules, Charles.
Yeah, quickly, I'm really excited about that. I think it's good for fans. I think you get a decent payday, and because from a location standpoint, fans can get to you. So I've always been in agreement with the Techs, the ULM, the Northwestern State, the Stephen F. Austin of the world. I've always been in favor of that. I hope to see more of those matchups.
Well, can I get on the phone and call somebody and try to hook up that Tulane and Alcorn game? Or should I just wait on that?
I think you have Tulane coming up in the next few years. That's on the plate as well. So that's another big matchup. New Orleans is a short trip for a lot of our fans. So I'm glad to see that matchup coming.
And guess what? As we close here, tell them I want Alcorn in the West. I'm taking some heat. I'm taking some heat for that, but that's all right. I love it. I'll take even more. But we shall see. Hopefully that decision will be coming very shortly. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, Charles, and as always, be safe.
You all be safe as well. Appreciate it.
All righty. Want to thank Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network, Lionel Garrett for joining me, Coach Van Petaway, and Coach Terry Sims, football coach at Baton Rouge, and also, last but not least, Dr. Prince producing today's show. Everyone out there, you know it. Be safe. Be safe and take care of yourselves. Make sure you tune in, as always, every Saturday mornings from 10 a.m. to 12 noon Central Standard Time for Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and until next time, as always, peace and God bless.